Tommy stood alone in the living room, heart pounding. He gazed at an ornate mirror that had been in his family for generations. The surface shimmered in the dim light, but something about his own reflection felt off. He suddenly saw emptiness in his eyes, a quiet grief that hinted at a deeper problem. It was the moment he realized he and his wife Dara were drifting further apart than he had ever imagined. Only 5 years into their marriage, they looked like the ideal couple to everyone in their vibrant town by the river. Their home was bright and welcoming, standing where old traditions met modern life. Neighbors admired their success and how they carried themselves with a certain grace. Yet, beneath the cheerful exterior, Tommy and Dara lived in separate worlds. In the early years, they had soared on the thrill of new love. Their days were filled with spontaneous dinners, laughter, and gentle confessions of affection. Even mundane tasks, like grocery shopping or cleaning the house, felt like adventures when they were side by side. Over time, though, that rush faded into routine. Their schedules swelled with responsibilities. Tommy threw himself into his work, feeling the weight of providing for his family, while Dara managed the household and cared for their little girl, Io. Conversations became short exchanges about chores, errands, and bills. Both felt the distance growing, but neither had words for the ache. One evening, Tommy found himself staring at the old mirror on the wall. It had always been there, an heirloom that symbolized continuity in his family. That night, though, it seemed to hold more than a reflection. It felt like it contained the truth about what was happening in their lives. He noticed the tiredness in his own face, the way the spark in his eyes had dimmed. More unsettling was the realization that Dara's reflection, if she had stood beside him, would look just as weary. They both knew something had to change. The next day, Tommy set out on his usual morning jog along the river. The town was waking up, and the breeze carried the scent of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Jogging usually soothed his mind, but this time he could not shake the heaviness in his chest. As the path wound closer to the water, he saw Auntie Ireti, an elderly woman known for her quiet wisdom. Concerned by Tommy's worried expression, she stopped him to ask why he seemed so troubled. He explained how he felt as though his marriage was slipping from his grasp, like water draining through his fingers. She listened calmly and reminded him that marriage, like a mirror, can grow cloudy if not cleaned. She told him that reconnecting with one's partner is not about grand gestures, but about seeing each other clearly again through honest, patient attention. Her words lingered in Tommy's mind throughout the day. He mulled over them in his office, pondering how to reawaken that spark with Dara. They both cared deeply, but they had let life push them apart. He realized the solution was simpler than he first imagined. They needed to clear the distractions that had piled up between them and find a way to truly see each other again, just as they had when they first fell in love. That evening, Tommy resolved to act before the distance turned into a permanent rift. Instead of burying himself in more work after dinner, he put away his laptop and quietly observed Dara as she prepared a light snack for Io. He thought of all the ways her dedication held their household together, and he felt a swell of gratitude that almost brought him to tears. He approached Dara gently, making sure to speak from his heart. Though they rarely spoke about their feelings anymore, he told her how he missed the closeness they once had. He expressed his deep desire to bridge the gap. Dara, relieved to share her own loneliness, reciprocated. Both realized they had let chores, finances, and responsibilities become a barrier between them. They admitted that for too long they had moved like ships passing in the night, with no real time for each other beyond the demands of daily life. In that moment, they decided to make a change. They agreed to set aside a small window of uninterrupted time each day. No phones, no television, no distractions. During this time, they would focus on how the other was really doing, not just the tasks of the household. They wanted to reconnect, not only as parents or as a couple who shared living expenses, but as two people in love. The first few days felt a little strange. Habit made it tempting to default to logistics. Who will pick Io up from school tomorrow? Did you pay the electricity bill? Instead, they tried to share simple truths. How Dara felt overwhelmed managing so many details of the home. How Tommy worried about not providing enough for his family despite his successes. They even reminisced about the day they met, laughing at how shy they had been around each other. As they kept at these talks, a new warmth started to grow in their relationship. Little by little, they reclaimed the sense of adventure they had lost. Their conversation spread beyond daily tasks and returned to their hopes, fears, and quirky observations about life. They rediscovered the spark that had drawn them together years ago, a reminder that they had chosen each other, not just out of obligation, but out of genuine fascination and affection. They also began to explore activities they enjoyed together before marriage had felt so heavy. On weekends, they took Io to the riverside park, where they would relax on a bench and watch her chase butterflies in the grass. When the bright sun hit the water, they would recall early memories of picnics and lazy afternoons spent dreaming up their future. Dara remembered how Tommy used to surprise her with small gifts, a simple flower or a handwritten note, and Tommy recalled the way Dara could make even the simplest meal feel like a feast with her creative touches. The more they shared these forgotten joys, the more their bond strengthened. At home, that mirror on the wall gradually transformed in their eyes. It wasn't just a piece of decoration or a reminder of an older generation's legacy. For Tommy, it became a symbol of how reflection, literal and emotional, could restore clarity. He made a small gesture of cleaning its ornate surface each week, wiping away smudges and dust. Whenever he caught a glimpse of himself in that mirror afterward, he felt a growing sense of confidence and renewed love for Dara and their family. Not every moment was perfect. Some evenings, fatigue and stress still threatened to creep back in. They sometimes slipped into old patterns, Tommy turning on his computer after dinner, Dara scrolling through her phone as a brief escape from the day's worries. But they both recognized those moments as warnings. Whenever they noticed this drift, they reminded themselves of the commitment they had made to place each other first, even if it meant letting go of a few tasks until the next day. In time, neighbors and friends in the community noticed the change. They saw Tommy and Dara strolling through the market together, picking out fresh fruits for their daughter with relaxed smiles on their faces. They heard about how Tommy was making an effort to be home earlier in the evenings, and how Dara seemed more at ease, quick to laugh at small joys. The couple became an example of rebuilding closeness without drama or big announcements. Their story spread quietly, a reminder that sometimes a marriage just needs a slow, steady polishing to shine again. A few weeks later, Tommy once again encountered Auntie Ireti near the river. Though she had given only a few words of advice, those words had cut through his doubts. She noticed how calm he seemed, how the heaviness had lifted from his face, and she asked him how things were at home. Tommy explained that he and Dara were in a better place. They had rediscovered each other by setting aside time to talk, showing small gestures of care, and remembering who they had been as a couple. He admitted they still faced challenges. They were, after all, living busy lives. But they dealt with them together now, rather than drifting into lonely corners of the same house. Auntie Areti offered a knowing smile. She reminded him that no mirror stays clean forever. Dust and marks will always come back. The real test is in deciding, day after day, to keep it clean, so the reflection of love remains bright. Tommy thanked her, grateful for her insight. Encouraged by this conversation, Tommy returned home that evening, feeling more determined than ever. Dara greeted him at the door, and though neither used elaborate words, they both recognized the warmth that now filled their lives. Across the living room, the mirror reflected their images side by side. It felt like a physical reminder of the path they had taken, from distance and near disaster back to unity. Their daughter, Ayo, played nearby, blissfully unaware of the tension that had once simmered in the house. Tommy and Dara watched her with gratitude, knowing that every choice they made to stay connected also helped create a loving environment for her to grow up in. In the following months, as routine challenges returned, unexpected expenses, extra work assignments, minor disagreements, they stayed committed to honest communication. If Tommy felt overwhelmed, he would share it openly, and Dara would do the same. Instead of bearing the load alone, they reminded each other that they were a team. Their mutual support became a new, steady heartbeat in their marriage. Over time, small gestures became the language of their love. Tommy would leave a note for Dara, mentioning one thing about her that he admired that day. Dara would add a fresh flower to a vase on his desk, reminding him of life's simple beauties. They began planning small family trips, even if it was just an afternoon away, to explore a museum or sit by a different stretch of the river. These efforts weren't extravagant, but they kept the connection strong and clear. Eventually, they realized the distance that had once threatened their relationship was gone. It didn't leave in one grand departure. It faded under the consistent care they gave each other. Both Tommy and Dara felt a growing sense of peace. They trusted that they could weather any crisis if they faced it together with honesty. Their marriage was not perfect. It never had been, and never would be. But they saw perfection as less important than genuine closeness. Sometimes they would both stop in front of the mirror, seeing their united reflection. In the beginning, they had felt a pang of regret for how they had let things slip. Now they looked at each other with renewed affection, grateful they had chosen to clean the mirror before it became too blurry to salvage. The reflection was far clearer than it had ever been. In the quiet of their home, they understood that love was a choice, not a given. It was something that demanded daily attention. It flourished in the simple details: kind words, sincere listening, shared laughter, and gentle encouragement. They saw that the mirror of their marriage might gather dust again, as life was unpredictable and hectic, but they also knew they would make the choice to keep it clean. Tommy and Dara finally reached a place of calm, where their marriage felt like a solid foundation rather than a fragile structure. They carried out their daily tasks with a renewed sense of partnership. Even their neighbors and friends commented on how their once fading bond now seemed stronger than ever. By looking into that mirror each day, Tommy remembered the moment when he had seen himself with empty eyes and felt the panic of losing Dara. He also recalled the advice he had received: to treat love as something that must be nurtured or else it slips away. Dara shared the same perspective. She was more mindful of seeking genuine moments of togetherness. Their daughter Ayo grew up in a home filled with warmth, seeing her parents care for each other in small but constant ways. Through consistent effort, open hearts, and daily reminders to prioritize their relationship, Tommy and Dara learned what it meant to keep the mirror of love clear. They no longer drifted on the surface of life's routines. They chose, each day, to truly see each other. And in that clarity, they found the enduring strength of the bond they had promised to cherish when they first said yes to forever. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more exciting stories from the heart of Africa.